Well, howdy doody, everybody, and welcome to League Unlock. Eric and Mark with you guys, here to recap, break down the action from the weekend that was, and we're on to week two. Week two behind us in the LCS, which means it's time for sweeping overreactions and just completely blowing everything out of proportion, because 4 games is enough to judge.
4 games is enough to judge and to say and come to this conclusion that, hey, it doesn't matter what your team name is here in North America, because if it's not Team Liquid, it doesn't matter. You're not going to be winning, it seems.
Yeah, pretty clearly right now, Liquid starting 4-0, preseason favorites for pretty much everything, deservedly so with that roster, but they look like the only team that's on the same page. There's 6 teams hanging out at 2-2. FlyQuest is 3-1, and then, you know, the bottom teams. But, I mean, from any given week, it looked like Cloud9 looked great, then they struggled this week. There's really no one outside of Team Liquid that you can feel confident in.
I think that's what you really have to take away here when you look at, of course, number 1 is the success that Team Liquid is having, but number 2 right after it has to be that nobody else in North America here has really stepped up and shown us a consistent level of performance pretty much in any type of category of whether it's good or bad. We just haven't seen that consistency whatsoever here in North America, except for from Team Liquid. It's been clean performances from them pretty much all the way throughout all of their matches here. And of course, you've had those pop-off performances by the carry members of this team like you'd expect. Of course, this past weekend, it was mainly Jensen popping off.
And Core JJ and Doublelift pretty much immediately looked like far and away the best bot lane in North America. We thought that would definitely be the case, especially when it came to laning. Core JJ has looked terrific in North America so far. Jensen is fitting in seamlessly to this roster. They seem to already have pretty much developed all the synergy that they need. Obviously, 3/5 of the lineup are returning from last year, but they look set to repeat 3 times, three-peat this year. And usually they don't have this good of regular season starts or even throughout. The last 2 splits, that was not the case at all, but they are firing on all cylinders.
That was the thing. People thought maybe it was going to take some time to find the real synergy here with this team, get everything going on. Not the case. They are hitting the ground running here to kick off the LCS season.
And those other teams that we thought would be top 4, TSM, C9, and 100 Thieves, not quite living up to that hype so far. And someone like CLG, after an abysmal 0-2 start in week 1, I was ready to write them off based on 2018 and just say, this split's done. They have no chance at playoffs. But of course, then they bounce back this week, go 2-0 against pretty tough competition, actually, in FlyQuest and C9, who both, I mean, FlyQuest started out 2-1, C9 put up the best fight so far against Liquid, but CLG completely turned things around, and it was Darshan and Wiggly who started both games this time. They didn't bring any subs.
Oh yeah, and they definitely were great improvements over what was going on last week. And that's not to say that Moon isn't able to provide something for this CLG lineup. I just think that Wiggly was fitting in a lot better with how the rest of the players wanted to move around the map here during their games. I thought that was an important part for CLG in their victories, but you do have to remember that even though they did pick up this 2-0 week and getting the victories over impressive teams like Cloud9, like FlyQuest, is a lot of the times these were from deficits at the beginning where they had to find a mistake or two from the other team, but due to their credit here for CLG, they were able to capitalize on those mistakes, and that's why they got their victories this week.
And it's kind of, it's heartwarming, a little bit funny to see Darshan and the rest of the squad so hyped up during week 2. They're not used to going 2-0 in weeks based off of 2018. But the bot lane looked pretty good for CLG. But who knows? This team could easily just go 0-2 next week.
Yeah, they could go 0-2 next week. You never know with this team. Too much inconsistency, again, what we talk about here. With the majority of the teams here in the LCS, that's what we're seeing. This inconsistency, seeing bright spots, seeing down spots here. It was a bright weekend, though, for CLG.
And there was a lot of Fiesta-type games this entire weekend, and none bigger than the 100 Thieves versus Golden Guardians matchup. 2 0-3 Titans came into this matchup, and 2019, it was supposed to be a new year for Golden Guardians, where they finally get out from the bottom of the LCS, a huge makeover in the offseason, but here they stand after 2 weeks, 0-4, 10th place.
And it's really sad times, because when you're looking at this Golden Guardian lineup and what they did really here, setting themselves up in this 0-4 hole to start out the year, you're like, well, Last week was a week where you had matches that you should have found a way to get a victory here. You needed those. You go into a harder week this week and you still aren't able to come away with a victory. And now again, 0-4, and you're running out of time to start putting together some results here in this LCS. Start proving that your lineup is worth putting together here.
And there's been a lot of question marks for the Guardians. Contracts is still getting caught out a lot and dying unnecessarily. Froggen has not looked comfortable on a lot of the meta picks so far. He looked good on LeBlanc, but outside of that, the other 3 games, I don't think he's looked comfortable on those champions.
And I think that, to me, is the biggest issue with the Golden Guardians, is you mentioned Contracts and Froggen. Those were 2 incredibly important members for this lineup to have success this year, and I'm not seeing it from Contracts, the type of play that you know he has the potential to make here, and you were expecting him to be able to influence the map a lot more with these winning side lanes that the Golden Guardians would have. And while it's happening every once in a while here in the top side, Haunts are doing his job, not happening in the mid lane. And again, Froggen, we know the talent's there, and we know it's still there to perform at the level here on the LCS stage, but not seeing it with the champions that are in the meta right now, and that is a big cause for concern with the Golden Guardians.
And it has been a year since Froggen's played in the LCS in any capacity, so it'll definitely take a few weeks for him to, get the old chain rolling again, get back into the swing of things, but they're not going to have much time, especially starting 0-4 when the rest of the league theoretically looks better than it was in 2018, although obviously most teams are still trying to figure things out.
Yeah, and the pressure is there for the Golden Guardians now, feeling it because, this is kind of the first split really, that anyone's really paying attention to the Golden Guardians here in the LCS. It was an afterthought last year with their lineup number 1 and number 2 with the actual performances of the team. So now they're trying to reinvent themselves, pumping out that good quality content, having a lineup like this that people should think should be strong here, but not seeing the results, and they are going to need to turn it around soon.
Real soon, because 0-4 is a tough hole to get out of. Standout performers from week 1, really, or week 2, excuse me, really you could just put all of Liquid. That would be the easy path to go, is throw 5 guys in there, but we narrowed it down to just 3 of them, and that's Impact, Jensen, and Core JJ. Core JJ has been an absolute animal so far for Liquid. His Braum is actually exciting to watch, which is rare when anyone is picking Braum. So a couple of the guys not on Liquid that we had on the list here is Santorin. He's been probably a top 2 jungler through the first 2 weeks. He's been fantastic, right behind Xmithy, and Stixxay had a great bounce back week for CLG.
Fantastic performances by all 5 of these members here. I want to give a quick shout out to Eugene Pobelter, man. Gotta give the man some props here. That Zoe game that he had against TSM, huge way to overperform over the likes of Bjergsen there. Great stuff from him. Great stuff from these 5 guys here for week 2.
That one game was almost enough to put him on that list, but came up just short behind Jensen. Coming up after the break, we're going to take a look over at Europe and Fnatic. 1-5 start, they might be done for playoffs, and we're going to grade Perkz as an AD carry. Hello, all you beautiful people, and welcome back here to League on Lock. Eric and Mark with you guys, and we're 3 weeks into the LEC. 1 ahead of NA, which means it is officially time to panic if you're a Fnatic fan after going 1-5. But they did get their first win, Mark, but that did not instill confidence whatsoever going against Rogue, and they struggled to get there, even though Reckless got a penta.
Yeah, hey, pentakill's a pentakill. You take it any way it's happening here. But I think if you're looking at Fnatic and you're trying to talk yourself into being confident, to having this thing, thinking, hey,
you're insane.
Eventually, yeah, you're definitely insane. But eventually it's going to turn around, right? We're going to get it, and we're going to make playoffs this split. I don't know. I think this is one of those type of situations where, again, you preach about patience, having patience with these teams. It is, more of a marathon than a sprint here, but you are running out of time to get yourself in a position to really make that charge here in the later half of the spring split, because you know you're going to need it again at 1-5. You're absolutely going to need a strong stretch to push yourself into the playoffs here, and you might be too far behind already. And I haven't exactly seen signs from the players on Fnatic that I would expect to help carry them to these victories. Really show me something that's going to be, hey, yeah, I think these victories are really close behind. I haven't seen that yet from this squad.
Not at all. And here's the thing. They probably have to get to around 9-9, 500 to make playoffs. And with 5 losses already, they still have to play G2 twice. They haven't played them once yet. They'll play them this week. And yeah, even the win against Rogue, the winless team in the LEC. They struggled. It was back and forth. They had to grind it out. And then, okay, they finally got a win. Maybe that's some momentum they can take into Misfits. That game was over by 5 minutes. They got completely steamrolled in that early game by them. It's not Nemesis that's the main guy to blame here. The bot lane of Fnatic looks like they haven't played together for a full year, which they already have. Broxa is almost invisible in the majority of these early games, and you just saw Soaz completely slap around Bwipo in that top lane.
That was an unfortunate matchup there for Bwipo, getting absolutely dusted by the likes of Soaz there, the former teammate of the time during Fnatic, now with Misfits. That was a bad matchup there and a bad performance. And when you're looking at Fnatic, again, it is a lot of those bad performances. Bwipo has not been the same Bwipo that we were able to see in the summer split last year. Brox, as you said, has been mostly invisible, not able to get that impact into these other lanes here. Nemesis has been, for the most part, actually the last 2 weeks, been pretty solid in that middle lane, doing what he can really, but you're not expecting too much there and not really himself even not impacting the map enough. And I think, again, you're right, that bottom lane where you would expect it, again, if you have to fall back on things for Fnatic, Reckless should be the power there in the bottom side, and it's just not come through at all for Fnatic.
It's been a nightmare start for Fnatic, but a dream start for G2. And obviously, so far, you can say, oh, wow, they got the better of the trade by far. They're 6-0 to this start, and the role swap was the talk of the offseason, and so far, it's worked pretty well for G2. How would you grade Perkz as an AD carry so far? I feel like he's definitely top half, maybe top 3 already.
I think you got to give him an A. You're not going to give him that A+ grade for sure or anything like that. But I think A-,
B+.
You got. I think you got to get above the B+ range here so far.
He's had some questionable 2v2s that they've lost.
Oh sure, and hey, you're going to lose marks anytime you got to be yelled at to take the lantern. Sometimes for sure, you're going to be yelled at as an ADC in that situation. But I think when you are looking at the numbers for Perkz and what his impact has been so far for G2.
His damage numbers are crazy.
His damage numbers are out of this world here, and he is for sure an incredibly impactful member for G2 in almost every single victory. I say almost every single victory because there's one victory I'll completely give credit to Caps for in that one. But I think when you are talking here about Perkz' rating here as an ADC, and we said we want to give some respect to the other ADCs here in the LEC, that they are, trained on this position and this role specifically for so long, and Perkz does need to adapt to get here. But I think this adaptation has worked out so well, and right away we are seeing the fruits of the labor here to have Perkz as the ADC for G2.
I've loved seeing how aggressive he is in these team fights, and it suits the meta pretty well. It's refreshing to see an AD carry not afraid to go right up to the front line. There were a lot of rookies coming into this year that people were hyped about, specifically in the mid lane. And so far, I feel like Abbedagge has been the standout and is right now the front runner. We're only 3 weeks in to the LEC, but Schalke looks better than they did in 2018 right now with this lineup, and that young carry duo of Upset and Abbedagge have looked fantastic through the first few weeks.
It's been a real treat to watch here in the LEC, watching Abbedagge pop off here, because again, we've been telling people that this is the guy you're going to want to watch. Yes, there'll be a lot of hype around someone like Nemesis, and that's fair, given what he did with Mad Lions and going to a team like Fnatic. But do not sleep on your boy, Abbedagge. He is absolutely mechanically gifted here. And again, when you're looking at how things are going with Schalke right now, you have to believe that they're all on the same page when it comes to how to orchestrate these team fights and work around these objectives here. It's been really nice watching.
I'd love to see him on more of these LeBlanc-type champions where he has more of a responsibility to carry throughout some of these team fights, because I think he'll be up to that challenge. But he and Selfmade have both been standout. Probably the best 2 rookies so far that we've seen in the LEC, but plenty of weeks left for that to change. But Schalke is looking very serious right now. Top 5 performers from the week. We just talked about Abbedagge. He comes in that mid lane, even though he had a killless game on Rise where he was mostly just split pushing and absorbing pressure, mainly because of that LeBlanc performance is why he's on here. He was incredible in that one. And then his pal Upset in at AD carry for the 2nd straight week. KDA of 20 this week, not bad. Upset has far and away been the best AD carry so far in EU.
No question that he's been the best ADC so far. And hey, You talk about Perkz all the time, and yeah, those damage numbers are nutty here, but Upset and his impact for his team specifically here with Schalke has been very important, and that's why he finds himself here on week 3 top performer.
And I think we're finally starting to talk about Kabashard not as an underrated top laner, but people are finally recognizing that he is a top-tier guy during the laning phase and outside. His champion pool is actually massive. He can play the Jace or the Urgot. You know, he can carry a game or just be there on Scion duty, even that as well. And with Perkz and Cap stealing all the attention so far on G2, Jankos is quietly having definitely the best start to a split he's had on G2. He has been incredibly consistent, and he loves that Olaf pick.
Yeah, hey, Olaf, fine. Keep the Karthus away from someone like Jankos, and you're no problems there. But yeah, hey, been popping off in the jungle. Got to tip your cap to Jankos here early for G2.
And Mickey was in at support. The 2 forgotten heroes so far of G2, both had incredible weekends. Coming up after the break, the LCK is starting to get some fiestas a little bit like North America. And by the way, Griffin's dominance is all-time great. Welcome back, everybody. This is League Unlocked. My name's Eric here with Mark, and we're jumping to some recap action from the LCK weekend. And Griffin lost a game, Mark. Not a series, a game. One single game, first time in the LCK spring split. But so far, the dominance of Griffin is something we haven't seen in years, maybe going back to early SKT or Samsung in 2014, because the minute they lost that game to Sandbox, you knew that that next game, that third game, was going to be a complete massacre, and that's what it was.
Yeah, hey, Griffin has been completely, without a doubt, no questions asked, the best team in the LCK this year.
In the world.
And the world, and maybe the best team within the last 2-3 years, maybe, even possibly to say here, because this has been an incredible run from this squad, and one that I don't think you've ever seen from players this young before, to be able to dominate and perform the way they have here. And hey, I was looking up at some KDA charts here before the show, and you got Chovy and Viper and Tarzan all up there in the top of the world for the KDA, and everyone else is around 15 or so, and it's okay. And yeah, you've played 5 or 4 games. These guys have played about 13 games here, and they're still way ahead of everybody in KDA. Of course, with Chovy's monster, like 45 KDA at the top, there is no questions here. Griffin is your #1 team in the LCK, #1 team in the world. And hey, for right now, I'm saying that if you want to win Worlds, you're going to have to go through Griffin, because they're going to be there in the finals waiting for you.
Yeah, but if you're going back historically, I think, yeah, you're maybe looking at SKT 2013, when they had all the players were young and up and coming then. Faker was still just a solo queue prodigy, and that's basically what this entire roster is, a bunch of solo queue prodigies that have all come and just completely destroyed the scene. And I mean, there are Kingzone, when they were actually good and dominating in late 2017 as Longzhu and early 2018, they were dominating the LCK, but not even close to the level that Griffin is right now.
Right, and at that time, a lot of the talk was about the mid laner for Longzhu, BDD, and talking about comparing him with Faker and who was better here. But when you compare Griffin's mid laner, Chovy, to Faker, you have to think about, hey, man, you know what? I think at the peak, you might want Faker. But right now, pure performance-wise, you'd be crazy not to take Chovy, which is an insane statement to take someone else over the unkillable Demon King.
He's clearly the best mid in the LCK right now. So we have the greatness of Griffin, and then the, I don't know what to call it, that was the GenG versus Kingzone series. These two were fighting in the gauntlet. They were fighting for final spots at Worlds. They've always been at the upper tier of the LCK. But right now, some of these games are looking like NA games because they're absolute fiestas, throws back and forth. The LCK broadcast kept calling them ping pong and tennis matches. What is Peanut doing, Mark?
Wow.
What is he hoping to accomplish?
I'm a huge Peanut fan. I cannot forgive that player and explain that one to you there.
He's going to solo the Baron from 6K himself?
It's not going to happen. This was a wild series. Really, and hey, even in this series when you're talking, I don't think Peanut's the most egregious one here. I want to talk about Pawn in this series for Kingzone, because I thought actually heading into this one, I've been watching Pawn and I'm like, you know what? I'm starting to see some of those old flashes of brilliance. I think Pawn might be a quick steal here for Kingzone. And then game 2 happens and you're kind of like, wait a minute.
To the bench you go.
Yeah, please. That is not what I needed to be seeing here. So there still are a lot of questions, even for a team like Kingzone, which I think is a little bit of ahead of GenG if you're talking about here. And I think that there are more potential for a team like Kingzone to find its footing and maybe get some success here in the LCK. But man, this is a weird time here when you got these young guns in Griffin, Damwon, Sandbox Gaming finding their way to the top, and teams like GenG and Kingzone down to the bottom.
Kingzone, an incredibly underwhelming 4-2 right now. I think their record is actually better than how good that team actually is, but maybe they'll start proving us wrong later on. Deft's face after that series just kind of summed it all up. He was like, this is not peak League of Legends I'm taking part in right now. Someone else who's not taking part of peak League of Legends is Viktor right now as a pick. Across all the major regions we've seen him. Top lane he's struggled, bot lane he's struggled, he's not going mid lane anymore. He's not as diverse a flex pick, but still he's picked pretty often across all the major regions. Look at this, 33% win rate, pretty crappy KDA, and he's almost down 10 CS at 15. Why do people keep picking Viktor, Mark?
Well, that's a real big mistake here if you keep picking Viktor right now on patch 9.2. As we've been talking about since Worlds, since it emerged that Viktor was going to be this flex pick where he might be in top, and if you're asking Sneaky, he'll be down in the bottom lane at that point in time. The nerfs that have been happening to Viktor here to get him more in line have certainly hurt, and again, eliminated pretty much mid lane Viktor, not able to have that laning presence that he needed to, especially into the champions that you play against in the mid lane. But when you're looking at his effectiveness as a flex pick around the rest of the regions, it's just not working with a lot of the options that you have available to you. In the top side now are stronger right now in their positioning and how the balance team has worked it. And then on the bottom side, you have ADCs like Ezreal, Lucian, and Draven, just dominating down there, pumping out the damage. And a player like Viktor, he's not going to be able to keep up with that damage output from those ADCs.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen it. You've seen Bang struggle on it. You saw Licorice struggle on it this week. It's just a pick that should be getting flushed out of the rotation because of, as you mentioned, all those nerfs that it's had. But for some reason, people still love the flex between top and bottom. But get Viktor out of there. Maybe more Cassiopeia in that bottom lane, even though she's permabanned pretty much every game. Standout performers from Korea in week 3. Much like you could pick Liquid, all 5 members, you could pick Griffin, all 5 members, every single week. And you have to pick some of them, even though Chovy's KDA took a huge hit all the way down. It was only 44 for week 3. Oh. What a total scrub. Down to 42.7 on the year from 100. You know, it got halved this weekend, but Sword makes his first appearance. He's the best tank player, the best Scion player in the world.
Oh, yeah, hey, #1 Scion. You want a Scion, Sword is the guy you're going to be going for. But when you move on here in these top performers here to the jungle role, want to talk about Clid, I think he had a fantastic...
Well, forget about the Griffin series.
Oh, no. Hey,
that didn't happen.
If you're an SKT fan, you're completely forgetting about that one. That one's just, oh, we lost. Move on. No, nothing happened. It's a Griffin loss. You can't do anything about that. But other than that Griffin loss, I thought Clid was great this week for SKT. I thought he really was an impact performer for that squad.
And Deft, I mean, that was a Deft versus Ruler show in that GenG Kingzone series. It was exciting, no doubt. There were a lot of kills, but Deft came up big. And Snowflower has actually been a consistent force for KT, so deserving of that support spot. That's all the time today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you guys as always. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.